Welcome to the DIY3DTech.com channel.
Welcome to this edition of DIY3DTech.com. In this episode, we're going to take a look at what makes up the cutting head of the laser cutter, and then we're also going to work on exchanging the stock head for the light object air assist head. Now, just to kind of kick off a little bit, as I think I've talked about in other videos, you really need air assist. As far as I'm concerned, this thing is a danger without it, because what happens is, as it's cutting, it'll actually start the material on fire, and the material will burn inside the chassis, which is not a good thing. And so basically what air assist does is actually twofold. One, because of the air is blown through this little cup and out this hole where the beam also exits, it extinguishes the flame, so it basically blows the flame out. Plus it keeps smoke from getting into the lens area. So double duty, so well worth it. This is about 16 or 17 bucks plus shipping from Light Objects, so well worth it. And here's the stock unit. Now, some folks do have 3D printed versions, etc. that clip on here. You can go that route. I decided, for under 20 bucks, just to go with an all metal head and update everything, and that was just a better way to go, rather than kind of print that and kind of clamp it on there and hope it works. And the other thing I don't like is the fact of having plastic near the cutting surface. Well, I think a lot of people have had some success with it. I just felt better having basically a metal end where there could be flame rather than some flammable plastic. Just my opinion. So let's take a look at what we have. So in the top assembly, what we have is the head unit, which I think everybody's familiar with it. It basically, this is where the beam enters, and then on the top here there's a retaining clip which holds a mirror. Now the interesting piece is my mirror. I don't know if you can see it here if the camera focus that close, but there's some oxidation at the bottom of the mirror. So the mirror's a little bit damaged. It looks like there was water or moisture sitting in there, which actually corroded it. I can't seem to get it off. It's kind of okay for right now because it's out of the way where the light path of the mirror is. However, in the future, I'll probably get a different one. Now, a little bit maybe about the optics. This is not your standard optics, because this is meant for infrared. So it's tuned for a much lower frequency of light than the visible range. Including the lens down here, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So, but just be aware, this is not your standard optics for visual optics. So basically, what this assembly mounts on top of here, actually in this direction, beam enters here, hits the mirror, goes down into the lens assembly, which is this piece here. So basically, this piece, if I can, goes in the bottom here. The lens. Now this blue piece has been added for the other one. This blue piece is not part of the original assembly, but it took me so long to get it on, I didn't want to take it off. And then this cover goes over. Now there is a top and bottom to the lens. So basically the reflective end of the lens should be the pointing towards you or out. So which is the configuration I have here. And then so this it clamps on here. Now the best way to take this apart, if you will, and again I wanted to have it kind of assembled how the pieces go, is to remove the 3 screws from here, from the thing. So you take it right out of the chassis, and then basically what happens is this piece sticks through here, and this piece kind of threads on as such. Now what I did is it was a little bit too tight to untighten by hand, so what I did is I just very gently took a pair of pliers, opened it to the widest setting, held on to this piece, and twisted this piece by hand, and then it came apart. One of the things, apologies if my hands look a little dirty. One of the things in taking this apart is this is basically an incinerator inside here, and it gets a lot of soot and smoke buildup, as you'll see. So you probably get your hands a little bit dirty, even though I cleaned this all off before doing the video. So this is basically all the working end. So what I want to do now is install all these components into the Light Objects head. So basically one of the things I'm going to do is I've already did it once, but I've already handled it a couple times, is try to keep the parts as clean as possible. So I'm using an old microfiber cloth to kind of clean the mirror, if you will. I mean, it looks like I'm getting a little bit of that oxidation off. I get a little bit more aggressive, but it has stained the mirror. So you want to keep this as clean as possible, and then place the mirror into the Light Objects chassis. Again, I just want to make sure I've got everything orientated correctly. And then I'm going to set this down for a second. It's kind of hard because I'm straddling the camera. Now put this in place. And again, I'm just going to kind of hold my finger over this and then tighten this down with a screwdriver. You know, you don't have to get it real tight, just snug, because it's just going to hold the mirror in place. Alright, so the mirror is now installed in there. Now what I've done, now the other thing is I've read online that this is a poisonous material, and so I tried to avoid touching it as much as possible. I have, but I'll make sure I wash my hands, so I've minimized it. I thought about using plastic gloves, but I think I'm okay. So I 3D printed this bushing because one of the things that the opening, I gotta clean it, I got a little dust in there, is 18 millimeters and the lens is 12 millimeters. So definitely a size mismatch in going in there. So I just 3D printed this. I'll put the, I did it in OpenSCAD, so I made it parametric so you can adjust it, because not only can you adjust it for you know, the size, so if you get a different size one of these or a different size lens, you can adjust it, but I also put coefficients in there for the plastic. Now, one of the things this does do is that the settings for even my mirror prints it a little bit small, because I want it to be a tight fit. I don't want that mirror to be moving around in there at all, or this lens in it, because this is about a $60 lens, just FYI, so you don't want to damage it or anything. So print this out, put the lens in there. As you saw, I just kind of took the cloth and cleaned it. So and then again, remember the mirrored side goes down. I don't know if you can see that, but this is the back side, this is the mirrored side. And again, you want to make sure that this is as clean as possible, because if there are any impurities on this, sorry for bumping the camera, the laser will burn it and can pit the lens. So you want this to be as clean as possible before going in and not touched with oil on your hands. So it slips in there, you see how that is, and then basically this will screw into the top, and voila, as you see, we have our lens in there. And then basically what happens is this simply goes into the bottom of here, and this screws, if I get the threads to start, screws on the top. So now what you want to do is make sure that this is squared up reasonably as good as possible. You'll notice that there's some play in this. Now I'm only going to hand tighten this. That should be tight because it cinches. The way the metal stamping is, it sort of cinches on it, so it's pretty good. So basically that's in there. So then now what we do is we put our air cup on the bottom, and you can adjust which way you want the you know, airflow to go. So if you want it to come out the side, and there's this set screw here, and so what I'm going to do is just set this set screw for right now to the back. So I'm just going to tighten this down. You don't have to get it real tight. And then when I set this up on the machine, I'll go through it. Basically, I'm going to use an airbrush pump probably to drive this and set it in there. I'm also going to do a video to mount a laser aiming device into these two holes and put this back. But here you go. Here's the unit assembled. It's not that hard. Again, I'd say make sure you wash your hands afterwards at handling the lens and mirror and that kind of stuff. But this really should improve the operation of the laser, and for 20 bucks. So I think it's well worth it. Now, one of the things to keep in mind, and I'm not sure how much of a difference there is, because this headpiece sets about the same, but one of the things, you know, as this, I'm trying to put it in perspective. So you see the lens sits up higher, so the lens would typically sit at the bottom of this. So let me screw this back together so I can show you. Okay, so see that the lens is going to be down here at this juncture, and notice it's maybe a millimeter difference because the lens is sitting right up in here now. So what this means is your focal point is going to be a little bit higher, maybe by about a millimeter. So if you're trying to adjust things for that, you'll have to take into account it will change where this comes to a focus, because this particular lens is 5 centimeters, sorry, or 50 millimeters from the lens, so probably right around there, I'm guessing, if I'd measured out. But know that's going to be changed to focal lengths a little bit. And if you noticed in the prior video, we are also doing a bed mod, so I can adjust the materials, better for this. So again, hopefully this helped explain how this all works, and helps you on your adventure to make this K40 or this cheap Chinese eBay laser a bit more productive. So far, I've been really happy with it for that amount of money. I'm guessing by the time I'm done with the mods and stuff, I'll probably be around $750 in it, all said. However, think about it. Basically, you get a pretty reasonable laser for $700, $750, versus paying a couple thousand or even 10 or 15,000 for an epilogue device, etc. So again, very happy with this. So please like below. It helps us keep producing these videos. It's free, it doesn't cost anything, so we greatly appreciate the like. Also subscribe to the channel. A lot more coming on this. Like I say, we're going to finish the bed modifications. We're going to add a laser aiming device to this. We're going to be putting a new bed in. Lots of stuff. Probably over the holidays, I may even switch out the electronics in it for garble. Haven't decided yet. Going to play around with things a little bit more. It just depends on how much I'm going to use it. Really is going to be the determining factor. Eventually, someday, it will get changed, but just the timing. So, cheers, and see you in the next video.